Keane surely now considered one of the best players in Europe. He really should be playing in major finals.
Keane's belief in Ireland surpassed anything that anyone had dared to dream of before.
He spoke with Alex Ferguson before going there and said, we're going there to win the World Cup. Now, Fergie thought he was mad. But, how can Ireland win the World Cup? Keane would say, can we not aspire to go all the way? And I think in that way, he's different from everybody else, because I don't believe that any of the other Ireland players, before they left their Premiership clubs, would have turned to their club manager and said, we're going there to win that World Cup.
Certainly McCarthy didn't think we were going to win. Who's more realistic in that instant, But if you take that will to win, however unrealistic, away from Roy Keane, you don't have the footballer that he is. This idea that I've got to go out and win is essentially what he's about.
But being Roy Keane, the heightened dream he had for Ireland was always stalked by an equal fear of failure.
And his biggest nightmare, as he says, and that's the word he used, my nightmare, was that we go to the World Cup badly prepared with the same old shambles and wouldn't give ourselves a chance.
As soon as the Irish team arrived at their training camp in Saipan, Keane's nightmare began to unfold. A training pitch with holes in it, no training kit, and then no goalkeepers for their first practice match.
Now, Roy just doesn't get on with it. It has to be perfect for him. The goalkeepers weren't there. And as soon as he came off, you could see straight away, this is a real problem for him. He had this massive blowout on the training field, and I witnessed that, and it was unbelievable. The ferocity of him in the moment, the aggression in his face, I was actually frightened by it. I just thought, Jesus.
He knows what the calibre of preparation needs to be like to win and achieve at that kind of level. And he immediately sees that the preparation that's ensuing can't possibly lead to success. So the contradiction creates this rage in him because he knows, again, matters are out of his hands.
Keane's reaction was to tell McCarthy he wanted to go home. Then he changed his mind, he'd stay. Then he changed it again, he'd go. Then yet again, he'd stay. Keane's erratic behaviour struck an ominous chord with some Irish observers.
On board the Special Air Lingus.
Keane's problem of being away for 5 weeks with players, him being the only one who was struggling to stay off alcohol, especially in that first week in Saipan when they were there to relax and go out and get drunk. For Keane, that was going to be a white-knuckle ride where he had to hold on tight and try and get through it.
I mean, if any other major public figure comes out and says that they have, issues with alcohol, we automatically ask them, well, does it affect any decisions you've taken? We assume that it's a serious matter and that it affects nearly every aspect of their lives.
Yes, he was part of that, and he changed. But I still believe that he's fighting the demons that have, took him there in the first place. It's a battle for him all the time, and that's probably part of why we see this reaction of Roy for certain things.
Keane had been in Saipan only 5 days when manager McCarthy called a fateful meeting of players and coaching staff. It triggered a 10-minute tirade from Roy Keane. By Keane's own admission, it was candid.
You're a fucking wanker. I didn't rate you as a player, I didn't rate you as a manager, and I don't rate you as a person. And you can stick your World Cup up your arse.
Mick McCarthy just looked. There was nothing he could say. He would make a slight interjection, and Roy would come pounding on, and Mick is left just utterly naked, taken apart.
It wasn't a scattergun rant. Roy Keane had a list of grievances about Mick McCarthy, which he gave him in chronological order. It started with Boston, went through then to 1996. It seemed as though Roy Keane had rehearsed it 100 times before it all came out. He was very much in control.
The irony was that Keane has become the epitome of commitment, and yet while lecturing everybody on the nature of commitment, he walked away from the team and World Cup. It was the moment when Keano, the irrational side of Roy Keane, the explosive side of Roy Keane, dominated. But to me, the seeds of that were sown over the previous 4 or 5 years, with his being lifted onto a pedestal at Manchester United. He could see no other person than Roy Keane himself.
Back in Ireland, Keane resisted the immense emotional pressure to return.
The country would love you back, and it would do so much to lift the morale of kids who will never have a chance.
I don't know. I really don't know. As I said, I need to stand up for what I believe in.
It was at that stage a question of letting the country down, quote unquote. He said, I'm doing what I believe is right. I've absolutely no doubt in my mind that I've done the right thing.
The sense of betrayal that he felt was profound, you know. They ruined my World Cup, but no sense that, you know, I might have ruined my World Cup. There was no sense that at all. They betrayed me. I gave everything for this team.
When he returned back to Manchester, when people said, well, you know, how do you feel? He said, I felt great. And he thought, well, why, how could he say that, having given up the last chance to appear in the greatest football stage there is? And it's because he'd exorcised himself of all the demons, of all the rage that he'd felt about the Irish setup. And for Roy Keane, that seems to be the most important thing. Is he being true to himself? And in that instance, he could say yes.